All right, here we go with round number two from the Chicago Open, Matt and JD, and we will start with JD's game. Take it away, JD.
Yeah, so I was pretty happy. I had the black pieces against another pretty strong player, and I got a Karakhan. So I'll go through the opening pretty quickly. We got a Target Tower, and I'm instantly. I think I've gained like 3 minutes on the clock already at this point, and my opponent started to think here a while. So he played this pretty rapidly. I played here. And then in this position, I think he spent like 15 minutes or something.
I walked by and I saw he was really low on the clock,
Yeah,
like right out of the opening.
I'm still this is still theory, right? And so he played here. I blitzed out this move. He castled. I blitzed out this, and I was kind of hoping, or not hoping, but thinking that if he played this Queen C7 or C2 move, like I actually just thought about playing H5 because I
Hmm.
know that in a different move order, if they had played Queen C2 before this Knight E2 move, that I have to, and I was like, maybe I'd go for this, but he didn't. I mean, I also could, just drop back.
Right.
We didn't do that. Played here. I like G6. It's maybe not exactly the computer's favoriteest move. It's one of the top moves. It's not the favorite, but when I looked in the reference database afterwards, this is the most common move played. And my idea is, of course, I don't want the knight coming to F5, and and eventually I'm not going to let the knight set on E4. So it really kind of makes this knight look pretty stupid here. Bishop E3, which I've learned analyzing enough games that like the bishop just never really belongs on e3
Yeah.
unless they're castling queenside, and then it can belong there. So like he's already got sort of an awkward development, and I just fired off f5, just demonstrating exactly why this doesn't belong here. So I've taken away e4, and I'm already making threats, and I spent a little bit of time here because I couldn't decide if I wanted to go h5 h4 or f5 f4.
I like F5 a lot. When you see bishop and knight like this,
Yeah.
I think, like you said, it nicely highlights. Okay, that's how awkward these pieces are placed when you're just threatening the fork. I mean, does he move one of those again? He just moved those there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now he kind of has to move one again. He can't play F4 because the bishop drops.
Yeah, I actually kind of thought that like he would play Queen D2, and I was probably going to play like maybe Queen C7 or Queen H4, or I was like maybe he'll play Queen F3,
Hmm.
but then I don't know. So he did opt to move the bishop again, which we can see here is quite bad, and I pounced on it. Actually, I'm almost winning material already here. Queen H4. It says it's a mistake. I don't actually quite get why. The computer wants me to play F4 and then
Oh,
knight, and then I play it out, but like it's identical. it,
okay.
it ends up being exactly the same. I don't know why the computer is calling this a mistake when like the evals. I guess because it gives him a chance to bail out and just waste a bunch of tempo.
So you can lock in the bishop with F4.
Yeah, I can not allow him to play bishop back to d2, but I was happy because I was like, that's three moves with the bishop. I'm gonna get f4. The knight's gonna move. I'm gonna get f3. I can play knight to f6. Like it looks like I have like the dream Tartakower attacking position.
Yeah, it does.
So queen d2, and then I played here, and I was pretty confident that I needed to just sack the rook, but I really did spend some time here. I was like, is there any way I can? Because this bishop's not going anywhere.
Hmm.
So I was like, maybe if I can just drop my bishop back, I could win it outright. But there's no way. The problem is if I drop back, uh, just bishop g5, and so we sack. Not really sack, but I mean I get two pieces,
Right. So now you got this imbalance, two minors for Ruck,
and I didn't have to give a pawn for it.
and
So
yeah, and you have a nice F pawn up there.
yeah. I still have a kind of a nice looking attacking position. And one of the other things I liked about, like, I delayed putting this knight. I think not that long ago in my chess career, I would have routely played this earlier in the game instead of like maybe even this queen h4 or something.
Yeah.
But I there's some times where especially when you've played g6 and f5, that like you just don't need the knight on f8. So I thought this seemed like a more active square. F3, and now like I really didn't think there was any kingside attack now, and so I decided that I'm just gonna play against this d4 pawn. So and I kind of need to develop a bit. So we bring the bishop out. He brings here. I come back. I wanted to play like rook d8 because I had some ideas. I was like, oh, rook d8, say random move. I actually have bishop c5,
Oh, nice tactic.
and I
Yeah.
just win the pawn. But what I was concerned about is instead of random move this, and it hits this pawn and the rook,
Yep.
and I've got to do something there. Apparently, this is fine. I can just I don't need to worry about it. Like things like this. When I looked at this, there was lots of times I was kind of worried about these pawns, but the computer was like, "Nah, you never need to be worried about these pawns."
I think what you did was good though. Let's see how you played it.
So yeah, I just not this.
Queen F8.
Yeah, I played Queen F8.
Right.
Just kind of putting some general pressure here. It kind of prevents him from putting a rook on. It makes it a little bit awkward. He played A3. I brought the rook in now, and he brought the queen in because I guess he saw my idea. And so this, I was way up on the clock at this point, like 40 minutes or something, and I decided here consciously, like, I needed to take some time and really sort of figure this out.
Yeah.
And I got pretty fixated on this E3 square. I really was like, I would really like to put something there.
Which imbalance did you want? Like, if you could trade any pieces here, what would you trade off?
I would
Or pawns.
I would love to trade these two, but
Mhm.
I don't want him to have this epic center. And I think the computer agrees with this actually. Like it's probably okay, but like this I was worried that I might get steamrolled.
Yeah, those pawns could lock your bishop out or something.
Yeah, I was worried. Yeah, I didn't like that. So yeah, I would be happy to trade this, but I want to do it in a way that doesn't give him this center.
Mm-hmm.
And so my idea, which I eventually came up with, was I'm gonna play here, 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 and then if he takes, I'm happy if he takes me that way.
Yeah. So you're targeting the D pawn.
Yeah,
That's kind of the long-term
yeah. So
strategy.
I want to plant the knight on E3.
And this is worth noting. This is the weakest pawn on the board for white, right? So if JD can get this knight here and, put extra pressure on this D pawn, maybe with the bishop, maybe with the queen, that's going to really sort of force white's hand in taking this or pushing, and both of those things JD would like.
Yeah, I was never really concerned about D5 because I thought I'll just take and you take and like
Yep.
this pawn's blockaded. These bishops are doing a wonderful job of making sure that his rooks are never going to infiltrate along either line. So I was never afraid of D5.
And this opens up your bishops.
Yeah, I feeling good here. Um, so yeah, I played this knight h5, which looks kind of strange, especially my follow up. So g4, and again, I didn't think that these trades were ever going to be a problem. So brought back, went with the plan, and now c5, which sort of surprised me. Again, I had kind of a big decision here. My impulse was to come back along this way, and I even had some ideas of trying to do this. Like I was thinking about this kind of an idea a lot, but ultimately I was like, if I play g5, g4, he's just not going to take. Like,
Yeah.
and eventually I'll take. He'll take back with the bishop, and then my f pawns look stupid. And so I kind of gave up on that idea, and I decided, what I said I'm doing is I'm going against the d4 pawn. So I went this way.
This is a good decision, I think, because you're appreciating that maybe you need to change the plans a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're focused on the weakest pawn on the board, which is even weaker now that white played c5. So you're showing good flexibility here in being able to switch those plans. The other thing that I was going to mention is a lot of times when you have the bishop pair, one of the best strategies is to push the rook pawns and the flank pawns
Yeah.
and go for trades. But in this situation, let's say you played bishop back here and you were able to play a5. In this type of position, when white has an extra rook, 2 versus 1, you have to be careful. Like, you don't want to open the rook files and allow his rooks to get active when your bishops haven't gained any scope. So I think you did the right thing. You're focused on the weakest pawn, and it's going to be really tough for white to defend.
It turns out kind of impossible. B5, I kind of expected B5. Although, to be honest, earlier in the position, I still thought that he was going to try to come be active this way, but it didn't happen. So I played my knight g7, my plan, kicked back, went here, and then he did this, and bishop d5. Again, I have this d5 square, and I didn't necessarily want this trade, but I'm actually okay with it. Because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces that could all attack d4, and he's only got 3 that can defend it. And so I decided that even if we talked about that we wanted to have the 2 bishops versus the rook, but given that his weak point is on a dark square,
Yeah.
that the knight it's possible for the knight to attack the dark square, and it's not really possible for. Though doing it this way and having to move the bishop to d5 does kind of mean I don't get this f5 square, but I now have this e6 square, which actually kind of started to like it quite a bit because it holds this pawn. there were a lot of times where I was thinking that maybe I was going to have to like give up this f pawn in order to win the d pawn.
I mean, if your knight plants on e6
Yeah,
and your rook on d5,
which is actually what happened here.
yeah, that's a dream position. Everything's attacking that pawn on d4.
Yeah, yeah. So e6, what happened? I played queen b4, and it's just there's no good way. I'm playing this next, and there's just no good way for him to put another defender on this pawn. Just can't do it. I actually, I mean, I did spend quite a bit of time here because I needed to decide if I could take this pawn or not, and I ultimately, I'm not actually winning a pawn. I'm pretty sure he can get it back, and I didn't like that I was losing control of the d5 square.
Limit his counterplay.
Yeah, and so I just decided to stick with the plan, don't get distracted. So him here, I'm still just attacking. He takes, and he didn't trade the bishop. I kind of expected that. I don't guess it really matters, but like now my bishop's actually quite good. I was surprised because like our bishops were probably equalish, and now I just think mine's better.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose his point was that he thought that he didn't want me to open up the rook, but now again I'm attacking d4 with 3 pieces. It's only defended twice, and there's no way to bring a third one.
Yeah,
So-
it's almost 4 pieces if that light square bishop moves.
yeah. So he brought out. I just took, comes with check, and I'm gonna win this pawn too. Although I had to be a little bit careful. There's kind of a nice line here. So I looked if I just like take. Oh wait, I can't do it yet. Sorry, it's a moment later. This comes with tempo, getting this out of the way, and now I come here. Now I'm attacking this, and he played this kind of interesting move, and I can't actually, or maybe I can, but I don't think I can actually just win the pawn because I thought he would play here,
He gets the 2 pieces back.
take, and then
Oh no, he doesn't. Does he?
hold on, it's
Bishop takes c6.
yeah, bishop takes c6. I thought was, and this gets kind of annoying because I don't really like this, and I was also looking at like this way, which again I guess this turns out to be like better.
Still takes c6.
Yeah, I didn't like this. I thought this was uneasy, so I was like, be patient. That pawn's going to be weak forever.
Yeah.
And so I just moved the rook to the b file.
Oh, what I like about this position too, even if you don't do anything over here on the queen side, these bishops are now set up to attack the king.
Yeah, I was looking at that.
Like, if you need it, you could go for this king side attack and get your queen over here.
I was looking at some funny ideas during the game. Let's make a couple. I was looking at some ideas like this. We'll just make random moves.
Yeah.
Like I did look at like this idea, which would be a kind of a fun checkmate.
Yeah. And you almost have like, yeah, there's so many tactical ideas here. You almost have the type of line where you could sacrifice your queen here, king takes, and get a rook over.
Yeah.
Mate
Like,
on h5.
yeah, I did. Yeah, look at some ideas like that. Like just noticing some themes in the position I had with these bishops pointed at as king. It's pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I was just patient, and now I won the pawn, and I'm getting rid of the bishop, which is the trade we said I wanted to make like way early on. So takes, I just took it, and now I got the rook to the b file, and we
Look
got
at those bishops.
yeah, these bishops look great. I love how they're cutting off, like everything's his rooks have no scope. There's nothing for them to do anywhere.
So I think that's a really good learning point. When your opponent has an extra rook, you really want to shut down access of the open files. These rooks are completely helpless right now. They can't get into JD's position at all, and there's no weaknesses in JD's position. So now it's almost like it's cruise control in a way. I
Yeah.
mean, White's just struggling to make a move, and you still have things that you can do to improve your position.
Yeah, this was we got into like slight panic mode here though, because it was like so he played this, which I think from a practical perspective, like actually this is engine best that this sack, just giving up the exchange, and we're just about to make the time control, just about to get a bunch more time, but like I had this sense I was like I thought I could. My sense told me I should be able to just take this pawn and be fine, but I was too scared.
Sure.
I was-
And you don't need it.
I don't need it.
At
So
this point.
I was like, just trying to make the time control. And so he played here, and then I decided, okay, fine, I'll take the pawn. And he played this, and I was like, ah.
So we're move 38 now, and that was like move 37 where
Yeah.
you're needing to get to move 40 to get a bonus half hour.
Yeah. And then he played this, and I have a couple times I got down to like 10 seconds because I was like, my senses were like, there's a mate here.
Yeah.
If I can play, there must be a mate.
Yeah.
But I had no No chance at
Oh,
all.
it's the rook takes h2 idea. You want to show it? Queen e1,
Yeah, okay. Queen e1.
king g2,
All right.
rook b2,
All right.
king h2, and rook takes h2.
Oh.
And if he takes, then you have queen takes g3
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and
yeah.
queen g1 mate.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
nice.
Yeah.
And
I
he might run though. Yeah,
yeah.
but that, okay, so that queen e1 there was a mate there.
I my senses were like there has to be,
Hmm.
but I was too afraid because I was down to seconds.
Yeah,
So instead, I was like, give a check, give a check. All right, and then I made time control, and now I have like I got an extra half hour to think here,
good.
and I spent a fair amount of time. I spent like 5 or 6 minutes here, like just I would like to trade queens. If I can trade queens, this becomes ridiculously easy.
Hmm.
And so I found that this actually forces the queen trade. It gives up a pawn.
Oh, queen e6 ideas
Yeah,
too.
yeah. With queen e6 ideas, it gives up a
Nice.
pawn, and he can't stop it. Like if he tries to avoid the queen trade, I don't even know what he does. Like say here, trying to defend e6 because he's got to defend the rook because of this fork. Now he absolutely has to trade, and he doesn't even win the f7 pawn. So opted for this, and then again I spent more time here because I was like, man, like do I want to give up the opportunity to trade queens and try to go for mate? And I did calculate mate in almost every line except for this, and I wasn't sure. But the computer says just do this and you're fine. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm not going into my king is way open, and he's got a queen. Who knows what's going to happen? And I was like, absolutely not. There's no way. From a practical perspective, I have the option to trade the queens or trade the rooks. I'm trading the queens.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
there's no attack for white if you
Yeah,
trade
nothing. It's
queens.
completely safe.
No
So,
perpetual.
so I traded queens, and then I just decided I'm going to get behind my passed pawn, and we're going to go to town. And here, he started playing pretty quickly. It didn't matter. And at first, I was like, oh, I'm just going to bring my king, and everything will be fine. And then, like, I had a mild panic because I was, like, going to play this. I was like, oh, you're going to give the bishop away. I was like, all right, no more, no more, no more chances to lose. I'm like, I'm just going to go put the bishop on a protected square and shut his rook in.
I like that. Yeah,
And then
I like
like
that a lot.
like now it's unblunderable.
Yeah.
Like there's no blunder to be made here.
Yeah.
Like I can't do it. Like you
Did you still have time on the clock?
oh at this point, yeah, I had like 26 minutes or something.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was still it's like unblunderable.
Yeah.
And so I played here, and my intention was just to come here and then here and trade the rooks off.
Perfect.
And
Yep.
then this is going to be super easy.
Perfect.
So we played f5, and I played this because there's some nice tactical ideas.
Ooh, yeah.
He's forced to take the pawn now because I'm threatening to take and he can't take back. And he can't go to a dark square. Dark squares are off limits for him right now.
And you're threatening a bishop check to
Yeah.
win his rook.
Exactly, yeah. So like dark squares totally off limits for him. So takes, and he played here. And I mean, not that it really matters because
Yeah.
what I was gonna do, and the reason why I went to c4 anyways, because I was expecting here, and I go with
You're
check.
still gonna trade the rooks.
Yeah, and then now I get to come here. Whereas, like, if I had played, not that this makes any difference, but if I played here, I played here immediately, he can avoid the rook trade.
Yeah, that was a nice move that you had rook c4.
Yeah, so rook c4 here, and then I played this, and then now he resigns.
All right. So what was your opponent's rating?
2001, I think.
And okay, so then what were your main takeaways from this game?
I think one, I was just pretty happy with this. Playing the opening pretty confidently and just going for this g6 f5 idea, and I was happy I didn't spin. Like normally it's hard for me to commit to these kind of like kingside pawn movements, especially behind my own king. So I was happy to see like to come up with that idea. But then I think the getting after, I mean, this was just a little tactical thing. That's not really a takeaway, but like recognizing here after f3 that I'm going to go play for the d4 pawn and
Yeah.
staying focused on the d4 pawn and then eventually winning it and his whole position collapse, I think is the big takeaway, to switch from what I was looking at all these kingside attacking ideas
Yeah.
and then deciding that was shut down now and it's time to go look at d4.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think that the d4 pawn was key. Like the way you played against attacking that pawn kind of encouraged him to play c5, which made the pawn even weaker.
Yeah.
That was a really nice game, JD. Very nice.
All right, Matt. Let's show us the Stonewall you played.
All right. So I was playing against, I think his rating was 2070, black pieces. He played d4. I'm kind of going with our dynamic Slav repertoire. And I was happy to see e3. I kind of like playing the Stonewall, at least online.
Yeah.
I've played it once over the board classical, and I drew a master.
Hmm.
In that game, I had some chances to play for an advantage too. So I'm like, okay, I feel pretty good with this setup. Bishop d3, knight h6, castle knight d7, knight c3, bishop or queen f6. So JD and I talked about this a little bit. I think something like knight f7 might be better, or bishop to d6 maybe even.
I don't like Bishop D6 because like it's similar, I think, to the game. You play Bishop D6, then they play here, and then you have to waste a move.
Yeah, but I will say like a lot of times the knight on a3 is kind of misplaced too.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this during the game. I didn't want to waste a move
Yeah.
if I was going to take.
Yeah.
So that's why I played here. My opponent plays queen e2. Now bishop d6, bishop a3, and I think at this point I should play knight f7. Um,
Why not take and misplace his knight?
or maybe, yeah, taking would be good. You're right. Take, misplace the knight, and then maybe knight f7. But what I played in the game was definitely a mistake. And I'll tell you my thought process here. I played a really late game the first night.
Yeah, yeah. You were up till like midnight for
Yeah.
that
And I was thinking like if I could make this a quicker game,
game.
I would love that. And I was actually just kind of set on attacking his kingside structure. So I thought I was being sneaky and taking advantage of the fact that I don't have a rook on f8
Yeah.
and that I had the chance to play this. I thought I was being sneaky, but this is actually a mistake. This gives white an advantage because now you can see this bishop cuts off my castling, and look at how slow this development is for me. And I kind of got lulled to sleep because I thought, okay, Stonewall structure,
It is the Stonewall. It's in.
yeah, E4 is never coming, right? I have it completely shut down. Um, so I was a little taken off guard here by some of the threats that white has coming up. Okay, so my opponent plays knight b to d2, natural developing move. And here I thought, this is a cool idea. I could play king f7, rook e8, king g8. So I'm not going for like a crazy h-pawn attack. I had some ideas here, like maybe I could play knight g4, and if he goes h3, I could go h5.
The
If,
fishing pole.
if he takes, I get the fishing pole attack, which is really good for black. But he doesn't have to take. And I was looking at this position, and I'm like, I don't know if this is that great for me. So that's why I decided, okay, I'm just going to try to castle by hand. I'm
Yeah.
going to play king f7, rook e8, and castle. My opponent plays c takes d. And thematic here is almost always to play e takes d. I briefly looked at c takes. I decided this.
I don't think it makes much difference, does it?
Not in this position, no. Um, but then after I play this, my opponent goes into a long think, and all of a sudden I realized there's an idea here, e4. And I was thinking to myself, like, okay, e4, I can calculate taking, but worst case scenario, I can just bail out and play rook e8, pinning that e pawn to the queen. And if my opponent pushes the pawn up to e5, no big deal. I move the queen, I'm going to try to blockade this pawn, and then this pawn will be a backward pawn.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be a target. I felt it's still a game, it's closed. I'm not getting like blown off the board if that pawn gets to e5, right? So here it comes, e4. I spent a lot of time on this move trying to calculate, can I go d takes? Can I go f takes? And here's what happens. If I take, the bishop takes. Now, at this point, I could avoid taking the bishop. But the problem is, like, let's say I go rook e8. He can actually just wait. And it's super awkward because this rook isn't defended with
Yeah.
the back rank so congested.
Yeah.
So he's actually threatening things like bishop g6 or bishop takes pawn, and my rook on e8 gets captured. So I'm not even safe to put my rook on e8 because the queen's out here and this rook is cut off. And if I take, now he has knight takes. This queen has to move, and this knight is coming to g5 with check. That king is going to probably have to block this in, but then there's like queen c4 ideas. And I was just like, okay, these pieces are coming all over the place. And look at this queen side. It's terrible. This rook is getting boxed in, and this knight is on the rim.
Yeah.
So I think, the takeaway at this point was you got to develop your pieces faster. Otherwise, watch out for these kind of sacks. So I did not take. I ended up playing rook e8. And here my opponent plays rook a to e1. And I give him a lot of credit. He understood to keep this tension
Yeah.
because it makes my game easier. If he takes or pushes, it's way easier to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
When he plays rook a to e1, I got to keep calculating all the exact same threats.
Yeah.
And I was burning a lot of time. I think what I should have played here is queen back to d8
That's a
maybe,
hard move to play.
and then let him pick what to do. And the reason this is good is because the rook is defended twice. Like as weird as it looks,
Yeah.
yeah, putting the queen back. I played king to g8. And what I was thinking was, okay, this is a way to get everything defended. I would like to move this knight and then get those bishops into the game.
Yeah.
That was my plan. My opponent plays e5, and I'm like, okay, good. He kind of cleared that up, figured out where he wants the pawn, and now I can retreat the queen. He goes h4. Okay, knight g5 ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I have a cool trick here, and I think he missed it, and it's a good move. I played knight f6, utilizing the fact that his the pawn's being pinned down to the queen. So
Yeah.
he can't take my knight, and this is helping free up my pieces.
And it looks like if you can set a knight on e4, maybe you'd be okay.
Right, yeah. So he goes knight g5, and here I think I should have played a move like knight e4.
Yeah.
I really should have, and that was my original intention. The reason I didn't play it is because I felt knight f7, which is what I did in the game, would eliminate this knight, whether he takes me and I take back, or I take him and he takes back. Both of those scenarios I kind of liked
Yeah.
because I felt like, okay, I'm just going to blockade this. This knight is actually the biggest issue in the position.
Yeah.
Like, say I play here. I was looking at lines like take, and he parks his queen out here. This is actually just a blunder because it gets trapped. But I was looking at variations like that
Yeah.
where the queen just parks on h5,
Yeah.
and it was pretty uncomfortable. So what I played knight f7, it's actually a mistake though, and it's really not that hard to find. And I think, I just chalk this game up to kind of laziness in my calculation. Like
Yeah.
I just sort of trusted this worked with light calculation, and he found the critical move, and it's not that hard to see, queen f3, because now the attack is renewed on this knight, and the f pawn's about to drop. And there's no good square for the knight to go.
And knight e4 doesn't really work anymore.
Yeah, and this is what I played. He just takes. And the problem now, after take, he doesn't even have to take this pawn.
Yeah, he's got to check.
Bishop c4. And this is like,
Look at his bishops versus yours.
yeah, this is almost checkmate. And I'm not even up a pawn at this point.
Yeah.
Like, that's the sad thing. I'm not up anything. And I just resigned right here. This is 20 moves in,
Yeah.
and I got completely crushed in the stone wall. So I think, a couple things. Number one, in the opening, I need to get a little bit better idea of what to do in these structures. Bishop to b8 was a very bad move. But I think the main takeaway, and this has actually kind of been my theme of the tournament so far, is calculation.
Yeah.
In game one, I was really crushing my opponent, and I wasn't able to calculate the best way to beat him.
Yeah.
And I had to essentially win that game twice. I went from winning to almost losing and then back to winning.
Yeah.
And this one, again, it's calculation. So I think, it's probably a flaw in my training. When I do train, I'll look at openings or I'll play some blitz, but I don't do a lot of like hard calculation work.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I need to do. So those are kind of the main takeaways. If you look at a chart of this game, like it was just very clean, white advantage to white win. Just good game by my opponent. I got to give him credit. I was a little upset after the game, but I beat myself, and he just found the correct moves.
Yeah.
Like no one to blame but myself and calculation.
For sure.
All right, so that's 2 rounds in. Tough round for me, good round for JD. So at this point, I'm 1-1, and JD is 2-0.
2-0.
Yep. So we'll post the game 3 recaps next. Thanks for watching, guys.
See you later.